Hello.
Oh, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Me.
hear you. You look beautiful. I'm so excited to get to talk with you.
I'm so thankful that you are doing this. I have said so many times to my friends, I want to be Betsy Spina. She is the coolest person that I like interview wise. You have such a great talent. And
Oh
I
my
just thank
gosh.
you for being in with me today and letting me ask you a couple of questions.
Brooklyn, you're so sweet. This means so much to me. I think you're amazing. So I'm so thankful that you would think of me. This is
I
so fun. And
I've
yeah.
I work at a radio station right now, so I'm on their promo and social media team. So getting to talk to you as someone who is an on-air talent is super cool.
Yay. Oh
So,
my gosh. Well, I think it's so cool that that you're already like doing all this cool stuff. So anyways, I'll let you
so
talk.
my first question for you is how did you get your start in the entertainment industry?
Yes, that's a great question. So I actually studied music and theater in college. And then when I graduated, I worked on a TV show like right after college. I worked on a show that was called Greek that was on ABC Family, which is
Okay.
now Freeform. So I started off as just like a featured extra on that show. And then they ended up writing me a character name, which was really cool. And I did the first two seasons of that show. And then at the kind of like the beginning of that, the writer's strike happened. So when that was going on, if episodes had been written, you could keep filming, but as soon as you got to the end of what was written, you
Right.
couldn't film anymore. So when the writer's strike happened, I actually had friends that worked at Radio Disney, and they were like, hey, do you want to come do live events with us? And I thought that would be really fun. I would love to do live events. So I first started doing radio stuff with Radio Disney, doing the street team. And so we would go out and do like live local events. And so then when Greek came back, I was doing Greek and Radio Disney on the weekends. And then I kept thinking like, wow, it would be kind of cool if I could like learn to do voiceovers or like learn to actually be on the radio. I don't know, like I grew up loving music and loving radio, but it just never occurred to me that like humans get to be on the radio. I don't know
Yeah.
why I hadn't thought about that. So all this to say, I kept asking my manager at the time, like, man, could I maybe like be on air or like do voiceovers? And she was like, well, we don't like have any positions open now. But I'll keep that in mind. Long story short, flash forward, like again, I did 2 seasons of Greek. And then with Radio Disney, the station had been based in Dallas, Texas, but they moved their like main station to Los Angeles. And so when they moved it out here, they lost one of their on-air talent. And my manager was like, hey, I know you had like asked about doing stuff on the radio. Like, do you want to really do it? Which was so surreal because I had never been on the radio before. So anyways, that was kind of a long story. So I did acting stuff first and then kind of like fell into radio, but have loved it and have continued to do it. So yeah.
So cool. And now you're with your podcast, which is even cool, is also really cool
Thanks.
too. So what were your three biggest takeaways from Radio Disney Country and how are you now using those in your current podcast?
Oh man, that is a great question. I loved being a part of Radio Disney Country. It was such an honor to get to be a part of something like from its inception because I, like really got to help launch the station. And so I think I learned just to like build real relationships with people. I know in entertainment and in, just any industry, I feel like people are always like, you got to network, you got to network. And I love to talk to people, but I always wanted to develop like real
Right.
relationships with people. And so I think that is something that I've learned. And I feel so lucky now that I've started this podcast. I obviously hoped that I would get to interview people, but I didn't know who would be willing. And people have been so generous with their time. And some artists have even reached out to me to be on the podcast, which I like never in 1,000 years dreamed would have happened. So it's been really special. So like cultivating real relationships with people, I think is really important. I love that we got to support females in country music. I thought that was so cool. And obviously being a woman, I know that the female voice is so important. And so I love getting to continue that to empower women. And I want to do that not only, with the podcast, but just like as a female, as a woman in life, I just want to encourage women and support women. So I think that's another thing I learned. And then I think also one thing is to like stand up for yourself, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but I think in entertainment, there are times that maybe like you have an idea or like a gut feeling for something. And maybe like, different things try and pull you otherwise. And I think you have to like really kind of cultivate and develop a strong sense of who you are and like be true to that and not be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. So those are 3 things that I would say.
Definitely. Well, now that you talked about the females in country radio, I do have a question about it. It's a little bit more of a harder question. And when I thought about it, I was like, I don't know if I want to ask her this or not, but I think it's important. What are your thoughts on the gender disparity in country radio? And how do you think that future professionals in the industry could aid in bridging that gap?
Yes. First, you can ask me anything. You're so nice. I will literally share anything with you. I hate that women have not been treated equally. I think it is baloney, and I just think it's crazy. Like I just don't. It's bonkers to me that that has happened for such a long time. I think that women are so powerful and strong and caring and thoughtful and creative, and our voices are so powerful and need to be heard. And so I think that people moving forward would be really kind of stupid to not see that in women, and to not, you know, work with women, and to not champion women and highlight them. And yeah, I think we just have incredible stories to tell that need to be told. And women are really amazing. I feel like now that I'm a little bit older, I have some friends that are like having kids, and it's amazing to like watch women like bear children and create, like, you're creating human life. Like, why have we not been able to share our stories? Like, we're so strong and amazing. And for women that don't have kids, they're equally as strong. It's like women have just been through so much. And so I think, yeah, as songwriters and musicians, like, those stories need to be told. And other girls need to see that their dreams can come true too, you know? So yeah, I think people should absolutely champion and support women. Yeah.
Yes, yes. How do you think that future professionals in the industry could help in bridging that gap?
Okay, that's a good question. I think obviously like playing females on air, having more female radio hosts as well. And with that, I've talked to a couple of friends about this recently, especially in country music. Unfortunately, I feel like for on-air talent, a lot of times women aren't given lead talent positions. It's like women are the co-host or the, like, you know, side character. And that's always been upsetting to see. And I feel, again, so fortunate that I was given an opportunity to be a leading woman in country radio. So I think, again, like, to highlight women, to give women key roles, to put women in places of power where they can be making decisions, where they can be program directors and running stations, and they can be hiring people and championing other women. So yeah, playing their music, hiring more women, just being supportive and listening to women. And I feel like one thing that people always say is like, oh, women are so emotional. Like, emotions are beautiful and amazing. And it's so cool that like we can feel so many different things. And I think that is like so valuable. So I hope that people can start to see that and recognize like, whoa, it's cool that women can feel so much more. And like, maybe men should feel more too. It's great.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that answer. That's so cool. It's cool to see someone who is on the more of the business side answer that question as opposed to the artist side, because I feel like we have the same thoughts on it. It's just the way to see it on the business side is something that I didn't know, is that there aren't a lot of female hosts on radio, or they are co-hosts, until I got into the scene and we only had 2 people on air female.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting to see that.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite part about having your podcast now that you're able to kind of, that's your baby?
Oh, thanks. That's so nice. Gosh, I love getting to have it. And I feel like I loved working for Disney, and it was really special. But obviously, like, I was very aware of the Walt Disney brand. And so there were certain topics we like couldn't really talk about, or you had to be like really careful with. And I kind of I didn't love that. That was a piece that I always felt like, man, I like really want to dive into some of these like tougher real life topics. And so with the podcast, I feel so grateful. Obviously, you know, it's called Celebrate People. So I can celebrate people in like the big, happy, wonderful moments, like winning awards and releasing new music. But also I want to be with people in some of those challenging moments of like talking about what it's like to be a female in country music, or like what it's like to be a Black artist in country music, you know, and some of those conversations we like couldn't have as deeply as I can in the podcast, or to talk about like mental health and struggles, because like that is life. Like, we all feel all these ups and downs. And I think, again, we can just like give so much power to people when we can like share our real authentic stories. And again, like, I tried to do that as much as I could with Radio Disney, but there were just like some things because of the brand and because of our audience that we had to be a little bit more protective of. And so with the podcast, I just feel really grateful that we can like literally talk about anything. And so that's fun. I'm thankful to get to tell some really cool, authentic stories, and just to celebrate these amazing artists that give up so much. Obviously, they love what they do, but they're giving up so much to do what they do. So I'm excited to get to celebrate them.
No, definitely. What do you think the hardest part about being a female in the industry is?
Ooh, I think, again, like, you have to have a really strong sense of self. You have to you know, Christianity is something that's really a big part of my life, or I should say just like like spirituality is something that's really important to me. Like God is so important to me. And so I feel really fortunate, and I have amazing parents. And I feel like at a young age, like they really told me like, you can do anything, you can be anything. And I feel like I've always had the sense of like who God called me to be. And I think it's so important to like really know that about yourself, because there are a lot of things and moments in entertainment where like you do really have to stand up for yourself. Like no one else is going to advocate for you. And you're going to be, I feel like have been some like situations I've been put in that haven't been great. And I feel really thankful that I could stand up for myself and walk away at times when I needed to, or to just like stand up and say like, hey, this thing is not okay that's happening. And like, I don't agree with it. And maybe, that means we have to part ways, but like, yeah, just like kind of being strong and standing up for yourself. Which again, I feel so thankful that I know that I have like God with me, and then that I have such a wonderful, supportive family as well. But yeah, did that kind of answer it?
Yes, it definitely did.
Okay.
I also I'm the president of my Christian sorority. So
Amazing.
the whole Christianity aspect of the entertainment industry can be a little difficult sometimes. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I'm
What
glad that-
sorority are you in?
Theta Alpha.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
they've been to it. I go to UCF, so it is about 10, 15 years old now. So
Cool.
it's a newer thing. I didn't even know that it was like Christian sororities were even a thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so
Um,
cool.
it's so cool. I have had such a great opportunity to have that in like the leadership aspect as well. I have questions written down on here, that's why I'm looking at them.
Oh no, you're amazing. You're doing great.
So okay, so we have about 4 or 5 minutes left.
I'm good for time, so take as
Oh,
much time
okay.
as you need. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're so
Okay.
sweet.
I was trying to be time conscious because I know that you can be very busy. So I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, thank you.
Who are your top 3 favorite artists to interview? And like, why
Oh,
do you enjoy interviewing?
this is the hardest question for me because I love them all so much. And I feel like the country artists are like truly the best
Mhm.
humans on the face of the planet. Like I just couldn't love them more. I always love Russell Dickerson. He's one of my favorites. He's just like such a joyful person. He also loves God and just he has such a great heart. He loves his wife so much. Like I love him. Walker Hayes is another one that's exactly the same. Like loves God, loves his wife, loves his family, has amazing music, has a great story. I love Maren Morris so much. I think she is such an incredible woman. I just admire her beyond words. Mickey Guyton, I feel the same way about. And she's so talented, so fun, so like just strong and amazing. Lindsay L, I love so much too. Tennille Towns is another one. Like I could go on forever. I love the guys from Old Dominion. I know you only wanted 3. I just love them all. Jimmy Allen is another one that's so amazing. And I feel like all these artists too are like so willing to have real conversations, which I just appreciate so much. And they're fun and sweet and talented. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on forever. I love them all.
That's so cool. Speaking of artists and stuff, how did you have anything to go into with like the whole Let the Girls Play segment on Radio Disney Country? Kind of how did that come about? Type of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. So I actually like can't really take any credit for that, although I loved that it was a thing that happened. But my manager and boss at the time, Phil, he really was big in like trying to champion, I shouldn't say in trying, and championing women and really wanting to support them. And so Kaylee Shore obviously was an artist that we played a lot on Radio Disney Country and we loved her. And she ended up being a host on Radio Disney Country too with Savannah Kais. And so they ended up having their own show that was called Let the Girls Play. And a lot of that came from the Song Suffragettes show in Nashville, which I don't know if you're familiar with that. I know you love all these artists.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's this all female led show in Nashville. And so their show was called Let the Girls Play. And so, working with Kaylee and her manager, Todd, I think they like all kind of came together and were like, whoa, this is a cool campaign. Like, let's make it bigger. And so they brought it to Radio Disney Country. And then it just kind of turned into a really cool campaign for supporting women. And it was really neat to get to have a couple shows in Nashville where we got to really highlight female artists and support them. So yeah, I wish I could take more credit. I was happy to just like be a cheerleader for it and kind of, be there alongside. But I can't really take any credit for starting any of it.
It was Song Suffragettes is one of my favorite things on the planet. I am definitely a fan of both Kaylee and Savannah. I've seen them play multiple shows. They are so talented. And I'm so proud of Kaylee for getting that record deal. She finally was able to get into that part of the industry because it's so difficult for women to get signed. And
Yes.
that my goal being in the entertainment industry is to continue to shine a light on the females in the industry. So
Yes.
CMA Fest, I've seen you host some of the shows there. I thought it was super cool that they have the Radio Disney Country stage there. What are some of your favorite memories from that week?
Oh my gosh. I love CMA Fest so much. Thank you for being there. Like truly just getting to be with everyone, I think is what makes it so special. That it's like a time that we're all together and everyone's just like, oh, we all love music and love these artists. And I don't know, I loved getting to be there and connect with people and to meet new people too. Like I feel like I've made some lifelong friends from CMA Fest, either from like the artists that I've met or from, like their teams or people coming up and saying hi after a show. And then we've kept in touch. And that is so special and cool. Gosh, I don't know that I can pick a favorite moment. I'm like, they're just like each week was so special. The very first year we had the Radio Disney Country stage, I remember being so excited and also so just like overwhelmed at all of it and trying to take it all in. And the first year that we had the stage, I was the only host. So it was like a lot for all 4 days. And I remember the very first day they asked us to do like a TV spot on ABC. So I had to get up at like 4:45 in the morning to like be there, and it was so cool. But then I hosted until like 5 p.m. And I remember by the end being like, I just need to go take a nap, I think. But you're just like, I don't think I could sleep because I was so full of adrenaline after being around all these amazing artists. And again, it's just like so cool to see the artists doing what they love to do, to get to watch them all perform and share their stories, and to see the fans just like loving it and connecting. And the artists are so great about connecting with the fans and taking time to say hey and sign autographs. And I don't know. I love that you really get to see so many different artists too, of like, like brand new artists up to like the Luke Bryans and Trisha Yearwoods and Garth Brookses, and it's like, it's so cool to see all of them. And just like they're all supporting each other and encouraging each other. And gosh, one of my favorite moments, I think it was, can't remember if it was our first year. I think it was the second year at the Radio Disney Country stage. May have been the first, but CB30 was this new like country band at the time that they're really close with Luke Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Luke, they call him Uncle Luke because they've like grown up with him. And it was their big debut. I guess it was our first stage. Sorry that I can't remember which it was, but all this to say, there had been rumor like Luke might come to like support them because he loves them. Like he might be here, but no one knew if Luke was actually going to show up. And so like I was up on stage and brought CB30 on. And I remember I like looked over and Luke had like snuck somehow through like around the back and through the like pipe and drape and was sitting on the floor, like under a table so that he could like be there and cheer them on, but like not cause a scene. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like Luke Bryan's here. So that was a funny moment that I still remember. Cam, I remember one year we had her on the stage and she lost her voice, but was so incredible to still like, she was like, she's another one that, gosh, do I love her, like such an amazing human being. But she came out and she was like, I can't really talk, but she could still sing, which was amazing. So she came out and was still like doing her show and we got to be on stage. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I could go on forever.
Honestly, I am loving hearing all of the stories. I went to CMA Fest 2017, 2018, and 2019.
Okay,
so
amazing.
What was the first year that they did the Radio Disney Country stage?
It would have been 2016.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So you pretty much saw all of them except for that one.
Yes.
Yeah, the first year. And I feel like we learned a lot from the first year. And we were in like the same positioning, I think 2016 and 2017, and then 2018 and 2019, we were in a different area with a little bit of a bigger stage, which was kind of cool too. But it was just so neat. I remember Luke Combs came one time and like we had a huge crowd for Luke Combs. I think even the like, I can't remember exactly what their title is, but the people, I wanted to say like safety warden. I don't know that that's right, but the people that are there, like making sure there aren't too many people in the space. I think it was maybe like the fire marshal, actually. I think they're the ones that have to keep track. Anyways, they were like, guys, there are like way too many people here, but like just everybody wanted to see Luke Combs, which was really cool. So there have been some fun moments like Maddie and Tay and Dan and Shay and Adam Hambrick I love so much. And he has been there. I don't know. We got to have Maddie Poppy from American Idol. Gabby Barrett, obviously, like, I don't know. They're just all so nice and talented. And it's really fun to get to see them. They're just kind, great people. I also always loved Bridgestone. Sorry, this is the last thing I'll say, but I love doing the shows at Bridgestone, or not at Bridgestone, sorry, at the big stadium, Nissan Stadium, to get to go see all the artists that perform there. And that was always cool too. So they're all great.
Well, I love that. I love hearing all of your stories and stuff because you've had the industry experience that I'm hoping one day I will be able to have even a part of.
You will. You absolutely will. I will say, like, from the real side of things, like, if you can work inside Music City Center, like we were so fortunate to get to do, that is a game changer. Like, I don't know how people survive outside the whole time. Because I was gonna say it's a very hot and sweaty week and it's exhausting. Like, you're so tired by the end. But it's so magical. So
even as a fan, you're dead tired by the end of it.
Yes, I can't even imagine. I feel like especially for the fans probably because like I always love that too, watching fans that like either they know like one stage they're going to go to or they just pick their favorite artists and they follow them from stage to stage throughout the week and that's really cool to see. Yeah.
I definitely have made CMA schedules based on where artists are.
So smart. You have to.
You have to. You don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. So what are the most important skills for the job? Like, so with being a radio host and with this podcast that you're starting now, what are the most important skills for someone that is going to be going into that part of the industry? What should they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like for me, so obviously like I do a lot of preparation. I think preparing is so important. So if I'm going to interview an artist, I try and do a ton of prep on the artists. And a piece of advice that was given to me early on, which was really helpful. I used to work for the Highway on Sirius XM. And I remember when I was early on there, one of the jocks there said to me, if you're going to do an interview, like don't write down a list of questions because I mean, good to do this in like prep for yourself. So like I will write a ton of questions for myself, but don't go into an interview being like, this is my list, because sometimes that can make artists feel like intimidated, I guess. Which also I keep thinking it's like kind of magical over Zoom getting to do things because you can like have your list written off to the side and no one knows. But this I thought was good advice. And so I've always tried to do a ton of prep so that I can know as much as I can about the artists. And then I do write out questions for me to like have in my mind of like, these are the 5 or 10 things I want to ask, but then try and just like remember as much as you can and then have a really organic conversation and be open to change, I think too. Like, I think sometimes the like magical moments are when you ask one question and then an artist like totally goes somewhere different with it. And you just have to be like open. And then you get this like really cool new story that you would have never known to have asked about, So that is one thing. And I think just being a good listener, which can be challenging too, because you're constantly like trying to think of like, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to ask? And you need to fill time and all of that. But yeah, so I think like doing a lot of prep and then just like listening and like really being present in the conversation is super helpful and being open to things changing. Yeah.
I didn't know that you were at the Highway before at one point. That's so cool. What are some of the experiences that you got there that were different between like Radio Disney versus the Highway?
Yeah, they were both awesome. So I worked at Radio Disney like right after college. And then I'm originally from New York and I moved back. I had always wanted to live in New York City. So I moved back to New York City and I worked at a Christian radio station for a little bit too. I've done a few different things, but then I started working on the Highway and I was doing the Highway out of New York. So some people know this about the Highway and some don't, but the station is like split. So some of the DJs are in New York and some are in Nashville, which was really cool. So like Al Scope and Jessica, and I think Ashley is still on. Yeah. And Ashley, they were all in New York and I was in New York there. And then like Buzz and Stormy, I think they were the only 2 that were in Nashville at the time. And this was before Stormy even like built out. Sorry, I don't know how much you know about the Highway. I'm just like giving you, okay, sorry. Okay.
No, I didn't know it was split, but that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was before they even like built out Stormy's like morning show and things. So I actually auditioned to be one of Stormy's co-hosts at one point. But they ended up wanting to bring like celebrities in and different things. And then obviously the show was so amazing for what it is now. So it all worked as it was meant to. But yeah, so I was mostly in New York and I will say, one of the things that was really cool about working at Sirius XM in New York is that there are so many different stations that are on Sirius XM. So you'd have to schedule a studio time to go in and everything. So again, the shows out of Nashville were live, but the New York shows were pre-recorded. So you'd have to like schedule your studio time to go in and track your show. And it was always fun because you would show up and like, you would never know who was going to be in the studio. So some days you'd walk in and it would be like, oh, there's like, I saw like Luke Bryan walking the hallway one day, or like you'd see like Joan Rivers or like different actors, like you'd see all of these interesting people. So that was really cool. But also like different than being at Radio Disney where you had your like set live show and you were there doing it all live. And I think there are aspects I like of both, of doing pre-recorded things and of doing things live. Yeah, I don't know. They're both different. Obviously, live is like so special and you get to really engage with people, and I love that. But pre-recording can be cool too because you have like extra time to like really think through your, everything you want to say and make sure it sounds perfect, and that can be special as well. So it was really cool. I also worked with the Today Show. They started a channel called Today Show Radio with SiriusXM, and Jessica, who's on the highway, she actually was the like main anchor for Today Show Radio. And at first it was just her, and she was incredible at doing it for a long time, but she was like, guys, I think I might need like some additional help here. And so she was wonderful to bring me in, and we got to run around backstage at the Today Show and interview people. And that was really surreal and cool too. Like one of my favorite moments. So yeah, I feel so thankful. I just like all these moments have been God planned. Like, I don't know. I'm always like, how did I end up here? But yeah, I'm really grateful. They're all different and unique, and you learn new things in each space. But I think like the biggest difference is, again, like most Radio Disney at the beginning, everything was live. And then with Radio Disney Country, we later moved to a lot of things being pre-recorded. So it kind of helped that I had done that with SiriusXM to know then how to do that moving forward with Radio Disney Country. So yeah.
Like I said, I love getting to hear about all of your like the backs of like your background and stuff. It's so cool.
You're so sweet. I've done a million part-time jobs and things too. Like I've had the like couple of great, cool radio jobs, and then I feel like I've done like every part-time side hustle job under the sun. So always happy to talk about anything.
What would you consider one of your mountaintop moments?
Oh my gosh. I think like one moment that always stands out to me that was also terrifying, but the very first, when we first launched Radio Disney Country, from this, so it was the CMA Awards and we got to do the radio remotes, and they sent me as the only host for the whole thing. And the way the radio remotes would work was that it would be, you'd get a giant binder of like 80 artists. It would be like 80 to 100 artists. And they would say like any of these artists could come through at any point in time in the next 2 days, and you need to be able to talk to them at any point in time. So amazing and terrifying, right? Like I don't know that I mean, I pray a lot in general, but I don't know that I've ever prayed as much as I did before those like first radio remotes. Cause I was like, gosh, like, please don't let me mess anything up or like call an artist by the wrong name. Like there are so many country artists that I feel like their names are like kind of similar. Anyways, so getting to like do that and really talk to people. And I think that was my first time again with the highway. Because we were split, I didn't get to do that many interviews. So I was doing on-air stuff, but not a lot of interviews. And so like when I joined with Radio Disney Country to like really be like standing next to Zach Brown or like talking to Luke Bryan or talking to Cam and Maren Morris was like, what? Like, how am I in this room? How am I with these people? I remember I always loved like Sugarland. So I remember really geeking out over Jennifer Nettles, and she was so lovely. Darius Rucker, I stepped on his foot the first time I met him because I was so excited, and he was so nice and laughed. And anyways, yeah, I think that like that is a moment I will never forget. Just being like, I felt so grateful to be there and thankful that like God would give me the strength and the knowledge. Like truly it was a God moment that I made it through and didn't mess up anybody's name. And I knew all the artists and everything. And obviously it gets like easier as you go, but the very first one was like terrifying, but awesome. So I'm so thankful for that moment. I think that was really surreal. And anytime that I got to host at CMA Fest too, again, I just felt like, oh, this is so special that I get to be here and like represent the Walt Disney Company and represent country music and represent women. And I just felt thankful to get to do that. So those were some of my favorite moments. And again, like the Today Show was really neat too. I always felt like, how am I in this room? What? So yeah, thanks. That's a nice question. Thank you.
I can only imagine how it's like in your inside, you're like, oh, like you're freaking out. Like, oh, this is Luke Bryan. Oh, this is Keith Urban standing in front of me, but I have to be professional, right?
Yes.
Yes. How are you able to, like, what are some tips on being able to make sure that you stay professional in this industry?
That is a great question. And I think like there's like something in your brain that just has to like turn off, and you have to kind of like separate from the situation. And really just like, again, this is why like doing so much prep is important. So you're prepared for anyone that you talk to. And again, like you want them to feel like they're normal people because they are normal people, even though to us, it's like, oh my gosh. I remember I got to meet Idina Menzel one time. I love musical theater so much. And she, like, I had loved her since I was 16. And I actually got to interview her at CMA Country Christmas, which I was like, God, this is an amazing moment that you would put me at like CMA Country Christmas, but I'd meet one of my musical theater idols. Like what? But that was one that I was like, keep it together, Betsy, keep it together. So I think again, like you just have to like take a deep breath and kind of separate and go like, okay, this is like a work moment that I have to be in. And I also think telling yourself that like you deserve to be there, that like you belong in that situation is helpful too. Because you do deserve to be there. Like you do deserve to be like, we're all humans. We all deserve love, and we should all be treated equally and fairly. And so it's like, yeah, you can talk to this person. So I think, yeah, like take a deep breath, just like be present, be prepared, and then kind of also just separate if you can. Which I know sounds conflicting that I said be present and separate, but yeah, there's like a piece of my brain that has to turn off in those moments and be like, work Betsy is here, not like Betsy the fan is here, you know?
No,
Otherwise I'd be like, ah!
I really love the piece of the you belong in this situation, because oftentimes in COVID right now, it's really
Yeah.
been difficult to find opportunities to do something like this. Like now, COVID is helpful because I get to interview you. You're in LA and I'm in Orlando.
Yeah.
It's really cool to have that aspect. But what would you suggest for the people that are I'm someone that's graduating this year. What are you suggesting for them going into the industry during COVID? And what are some difficulties that you've had versus some like cool things that you've also had during this?
Yeah. Yeah. First, congratulations. So exciting that you're going to graduate. I agree that this time has been amazing. Like Zoom, I think is so cool and special. And I think moving forward, like obviously doing stuff in person is so great, but like how wonderful to get to do interviews like this. And I've thought for artists moving forward too, like if an artist is on a tour bus or like wherever, I feel like that could help them in a lot of ways to be able to, you know, keep connected with people, but also maybe have a sense of like normalcy that like they can be home with their families, but still do interviews. And I think like trying to find balance is important. And so I think that's something that during this time, it's kind of made all of us reevaluate like what works, what doesn't, and like, why am I doing the things I'm doing? Am I happy doing those things? Um, and so anyways, I'll just say for people graduating, I think it's really important to have goals and things you want to do. I think it's also important to know that like God's got you and it will work out. And sometimes things happen in ways you would have never imagined, but like God has a plan. And it's crazy when I look back at the like big moments of my life, like they were so planned by God. And one thing like really did lead me to the next. But when I was in it, I would be like, what's happening? Like, what am I doing? You know? And so I think just remembering that like God's got you, and again, try and like always be polite, always show up on time. Don't be afraid to continue to like reach out and keep following up with people. If I think like applying for jobs right now is challenging, just because like so much of the industry has changed. And so I think, and it's like, it will always change and continue to change. So I think it's good to adapt as much as you can and be willing to try new things and learn new things. And yeah, don't be afraid to like follow up with people a couple times if you've applied. I think that was one thing I saw working at Disney too, like such a big corporation. Like sometimes a job posting would go up and they'd know like, oh, we have, you know, the head count to hire one person to do like promotions. And then like, you know, that job would go up, who knows how many people would apply. And then like 6 months later, the company would be like, hey, actually, we need to like pull that head count. So like, you can't have that promotions job anymore. And so the job posting would go down. And so like, when you see all of that internally, it's not that big a deal. But if you're the person that's applied, that's like, I hope I get this job. I went through an interview. Like they must hate me. I'm not good enough. It's like, no, it had absolutely nothing to do with you. It was just like literally the company had to cut that job. So I think that's a good thing to keep in perspective too, that like you are awesome. You are good enough and like you will get a great job. And sometimes it just takes time. But don't let that like make you feel badly about yourself. That was a lot of stuff. Did any of that
I'm
make sense?
taking notes and I'm like, yes, like I keep the highlights. This is so cool.
Okay.
Um, so I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
One, how have you seen obviously with COVID and everything, just outside of COVID, how have you seen the industry change since you've started?
Oh man, I think like I'm so glad that people are now like having more difficult conversations. I'm glad that people are, you know, paying attention to Black artists and highlighting Black artists and realizing that things have not been good for a very long time. And same for women in country music, that people are finally paying attention to women and highlighting women. So I think that's really awesome and cool. So I'm thankful for those things. I think obviously with streaming, it's just changed the way like radio works and music works. And some of the things are good and some of the things are hard. And I think, again, it's just important to continue to adapt and kind of always I feel like there are pieces of my job. So like I came in as a host, right? But I also had to learn to edit. And then I had to learn to like edit video and to like shoot video and to set up lighting. And there are so many things that I think weren't necessarily and aren't my best skills, but I've had to like learn to take those things on because the job has changed. And I think it only helps you when you can learn and grow and change new and try new things. So that I just feel like there are constantly changes. So streaming has been a big thing. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like there just has been like so much that's changed, but it's also all the same. Like it's still like at the core, it's like about music and connecting. The thing that I always loved about radio is that it's connecting like artists and fans together through music. And so like that still exists, which is really cool. It's just happening in a different way. And I think too, one of the other things that's been cool and challenging during COVID, cool for artists, challenging for like normal humans like me, is for like a person like me that would normally be applying to a radio job, especially during COVID, it's like all these big artists are now home and around and have a ton of time. And so radio stations are going to them and hiring them to do what I would have done before, which is awesome. And I get it. Like, I'm like, yes, I would much rather listen to some of these other artists than me. But it can be hard for someone who's tried to build a career and work up to things. But it like, again, everything like ebbs and flows and changes, and you just have to keep at it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is my last question, and then if you have anything, little piece of actually I have two more questions. I'm sorry. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh my gosh. That's really tough. That's a great question.
Just in general, it doesn't have to be industry related. It can be anything.
Again, I think just that like you belong and you are worthy and that your dreams are in your heart for a reason. And that like you just need to, like, you were made perfectly and you need to just go out and be the person that you are. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like you really can do anything.
Such good advice. My last question for you is, may I contact you in the future to share my progress and stay connected with you?
Please, I would love that. Yes, at any point in time, if you ever want to do another Zoom, if you want to email, like whatever you need, absolutely. I'm happy to help you in any way and like look over anything that you need or help to, if I can ever connect you to people, I'm so happy to do that. So yes,
thank you so much, Betsy. I appreciate you meeting with me so much. I don't think you understand. I am beaming.
Oh my gosh, me too. Well, this has been so fun for me. So I'm so thankful. And I truly am honored that you would want to interview me for school. So thank you. And I am here to help you anytime. So please, reach out with anything that you need.
So much. Thank you.
Yay, absolutely. Thank you.